Hi, I'm Ashton. I use he, they pronouns, and today I'm doing a chatty Q&A while I fold zines type thing. Hopefully this will be fun for you because it was absolutely a mess to set up. I wish I could show you my filming situation right now. I have my iPad over there propped up on about 20 books, a glass bowl, and a bunch of painter's tape. And that's so that I can film my zine folding process. So I hope you enjoy the video you're about to receive, because if you don't, I'm gonna cry. But I asked on Instagram and YouTube for your queries, your queer questions for me, and I'm gonna talk through some of them while I fold my zines. The zines that I'm folding today are Denny, a zine that I wrote about the Pansy Vision song. I had them open for pre-orders on my website for 2 weeks, and now I am folding them. And if you ordered one, maybe by the time this video goes up, you'll already have it, but if not, it will be soon. Okay, we are going to start with YouTube questions because there are fewer of those, and then we will move to Instagram. The first one is, how do you feel about socially passing, in quotes? As in, I'm someone who is non-binary but presents as feminine, and I'm AFAB. I don't correct everyone, so they just assume I'm a woman with a chosen name. I don't correct every person because I don't want to learn if they're bigoted or not. I feel like this is a bit of an odd question, not because of you, like the question asker didn't do anything wrong, but just because how do I feel about something that like a lot of trans people experience and I've experienced doesn't necessarily matter, in my opinion. Like, this obviously is an experience that kind of sucks to have to essentially closet yourself. I don't know, I just think it sucks that some trans people have to not speak up about who they are in public because of the way that we're treated and because of fear and such. At the same time, I don't think it's like the biggest issue that trans people have ever faced, you know what I mean? Not that that means it's not important, because it is, and things can be simultaneously important and not the most important thing in the world at the same time. But yeah, I guess that's how I feel. I feel that it's very normal, and you're definitely not alone, and it sucks, and I'm sorry that you have to go through that. The next question that I have is thoughts on DIY HRT. I think people should be able to do whatever the fuck they want in terms of gender and in terms of transition, and sometimes in the world that we live in right now, DIY HRT is a way of doing that, and if that is what you need to do, then you should do it. I feel like you all know this about me, but literally the last thing that I will ever do is police the way that a trans person accesses transition or accesses healthcare or anything. Like, the last thing I will do is police a trans person. Maybe that's just the best way of putting it. I have seen a lot of DIY HRT discourse recently. It's not something that I've really participated in, other than, I don't know, I've probably retweeted something about it. I don't know that DIY HRT is ever something that I would promote per se, just because it can be dangerous, but everyone that goes into DIY HRT probably knows the risks. I feel like it's hard to like get DIY HRT without knowing what kind of risk you're assuming by doing that. So I don't know, it's not something I would ever judge someone for. It's not something I would ever do personally, probably. I would consider it, to be honest. But I do think it's very interesting in theory, and I wholeheartedly support the folks that choose that path or are forced to choose that path, as it sometimes happens. The next question from this person was, advice on how to live a more anarchist lifestyle and foster community around you. I love this question. Unfortunately, I'm probably not the best person to ask, but there's a lot of ways of doing it. I feel like the hardest part is finding people like yourself around you. It's especially hard right now if you're immunocompromised or otherwise care about COVID at all. A lot of the like leftist groups around me don't do any COVID precautions anymore, and that's not a culture that I'm comfortable participating in. What I would recommend is finding groups that align with like your beliefs, desires, goals perhaps, and getting in with them. Volunteering with groups like that can be good. It really depends on where you are, what kinds of groups are local to you and how you find them and such, but a lot of the times Instagram can be a good resource, unfortunately, for finding groups near you in terms of like events and such. Look for stuff like prison letter writing. That can be a good look for if you have a Food Not Bombs in your area. Look for inclusive and, ideally, probably radical groups that fundraise for abortions. Look for groups that do things like noise demos outside prisons. Look for groups that do mask distribution, food distribution. If you have a independent, local bookstore where you are, that's a good place to look for flyers or zines about events near you. That can be helpful. In terms of lifestyle, I think it depends on what an anarchist lifestyle means to you. If you're not already into zines, I would definitely recommend going to zine festivals around you. There's a lot of anarchists at zine festivals, and you are definitely likely to find some like-minded people in those spaces, or even just zine events that are not festivals. I went to a zine making party recently that was masked in a local mutual aid hub, and it was great. It was fun. Everyone there was wearing a mask and was pretty much an anarchist. So stuff like that is a good way to get into stuff, I think. Also look for really, really free markets around you, or any sort of swapping, trading, mutual aid. Facebook groups might be a good place to start. Sorry if this is too much advice or kind of all over the place, but those are some thoughts. In terms of lifestyle, for me, it's DIYing as much as I can, reducing waste as much as I can, doing little things that feel helpful, following your principles where you can. It's really difficult under capitalism to live any sort of principled lifestyle, in my opinion, but you do what you can. I think a lot of anarchists just do what they can. I'm a vegan, which I also feel like a lot of anarchists are vegans, but it aligns with anarchism for me. There are also a lot of really shitty white vegans out there, and I don't necessarily like all of the vegans that I know or am familiar with, but the anarchist vegans tend to be the good ones. It's okay to just give what you can. You're never expected in anarchist spaces to have yourself go destitute in order to give your last cent to the local Food Not Bombs. No one expects that. It's not a high barrier to entry in a lot of spaces, which is good. It shouldn't be. Damn, I keep thinking of things, but you can also look for anti-cop movements in your area. If there's groups that are working on alternatives to policing, that's a good place to start for a lot of people. Okay, before I keep talking about that, on to the next question. I'm gonna skip a couple of these. Do I plan on making any art-related videos like DIY stuff, patch making, zine making? Maybe. This one is a zine making video, more or less, right? It is kind of hard with my camera situation, right? That's a long way of answering. Yes, I really enjoy DIYing as a whole. I've been making a lot of buttons recently. My next shop update is gonna have a lot of fucking buttons. You all will see them. They're exciting. Here they are. You can see clearer photos probably on my Instagram, but I have over 50 buttons currently on my website, and you can go buy them if you want to. They're $150 each. I'm still only shipping to the States. I'm very sorry, but that will change soon. I'm working on it. Go have fun. Okay, bye. I also kind of want to make a video that's a little tour of my favorite gothy, punky DIYs. I have a list going of some of my favorites that I would like to talk about and show off. If you're interested in that, let me know, because part of the reason I haven't made it yet is because it would be some weird filming setup and or a lot of B-roll, so it would be kind of not necessarily hectic, but a lot of work to make, and I want to know that people would enjoy it. Okay, the next question is advice for wearing a mask as an autistic person. I can't wear some masks because of sensory issues. I also have a lot of sensory issues surrounding masks. It sucks. I wear them anyway. Not everyone is able to push through their sensory issues in the way that some people are. It's an individual thing, obviously. It's hard to give advice for this sort of thing because everyone's sensory issues are so different. But for me, one of the biggest problems is heat. I have a lot of heat-related sensory issues in general, and wearing a mask kind of adds to that. So if it's hot, I am not gonna be outside in anywhere where a lot of other people are, and I just won't do it. If I'm hot and there's a lot of people around me, I'm going home. I have heard that the Aura mask is a bit more comfortable for a lot of autistic folks. I haven't tried one myself because they are expensive, but if you can afford one, that might be a good option. Unfortunately, I think a lot of it is just trial and error and figuring out what works for you. Another thing that I like to do for myself is make sure the ear loops are adjustable, because my ears hurt really easily if there's like pressure on the back of them, which is probably pretty normal. But because I'm autistic, it can sometimes be hard to recognize when that's hurting me. So I have to like preemptively make sure my ear loops are the right size. And for me, that means tying like the tiniest little knot at the end of my ear loops. So if the ear loops bother you, definitely try to like adjust them as minimally as possible at first and keep adjusting them until they are more comfortable. You can also get those back of the head mask strap holdy things. That might be helpful instead of having it over your ears if that's something that bothers you. Trial and error is really my best advice for that. I don't know, I would love to like, this is probably not gonna happen, but I would love to make a little video where I just compile all of the autistic person that wears a mask advice that I possibly can, and just like source from as many autistic people as possible and just give like all of the mask wearing as an autistic person advice, because pretty much fucking everyone that I know that still cares about COVID is autistic. And I don't know if that's a coincidence because autistic people tend to have a strong sense of justice, or if like a lot of us are also disabled and we think about COVID still, or if it's a weird coincidence, or if I just know a lot of autistic people, that could also be it. But regardless, I know a lot of people that have sensory issues regarding masks. You are certainly not alone. The next question is, if you could go back and do college again, what course would you take and why? I'm gonna kind of expand upon this and say, if I could start over on my college career, I would not have taken psychology at all. I wouldn't have done it. If I knew what I know now, I would not have gone into psychology. I maybe would have still majored in philosophy. Maybe I would have done a philosophy art major. I think that would be fun. Yeah, I probably would take an art course. I would probably take multiple art courses. I would maybe take more writing courses. Maybe I would have been an English major, but I certainly would not have been a psychology major. If you want more context on that and you haven't watched one of my recent videos on what it's like getting a psychology degree as an autistic student, that will provide you with a lot more context than I am willing to provide right now. Okay, next question. This person originally just asked, am I gay? And yes. But after that, they asked, what is the best queer leftist book you've read? This is a hard-ass question. I don't know why you would ask me this. I don't know if I've recommended it on YouTube yet, although I certainly have in other spheres of my life, but I really liked It Was Vulgar and It Was Beautiful by Jack Lowry. It's a history of Grand Fury and the people that were in it, which, if you don't know, Grand Fury was a section of ACT UP New York that did a lot of the graphics and art for ACT UP. It's a really good book. I don't own it. I borrowed it from the library. I requested the library to buy it, and they did, and I was the first one to read it. I love niche gay leftist history. I also really liked God, what was it called? The Woman's House of Detention, A Queer History of a Forgotten Prison by Hugh Gryan. Hugh Gryan has one other history book that I also liked, but Woman's House of Detention has a beautiful little preamble where Ryan talks about kind of becoming an abolitionist as he was doing this history research for this book, and it's really delightful. I also recently read and really liked Future is Disabled by the same person who wrote Care Work, if you're familiar. Both really good, and both very queer in addition to being disabled and leftist. The next one is thoughts on the Barbie movie, and to be honest, I don't have any thoughts on the Barbie movie. I haven't watched it. I probably never will watch it. I don't watch movies. I simply don't. The last movie I watched was Cats 2019. This is not a joke. The last movie I watched was Cats 2019. Although I watched it like maybe 6 months ago. I watch maybe 1 or 2 movies a year, if I'm lucky. Not even if I'm lucky. I just don't like watching movies that much. If I'm watching a movie, I need to also be like drawing or making a zine or making a I have to be doing something else. I don't like to watch movies. It's the same as TV for me. I also don't watch TV. I guess just because I haven't watched it doesn't mean I can't have thoughts on it, right? My thoughts are that the marketing was annoying, and a lot of the way that people have simply just bought into the marketing of it has been annoying to me. I do think it's really funny that conservatives hated the movie a lot, but I also don't think it's a leftist Bible in any sort of way. Like, I haven't seen it, but I know deep down in my heart that any sort of feminism that it does is like definitely just basic ass capitalism washed feminism. The next question is, how many tattoos or body mods do you have? I have 10 tattoos and 15 piercings if you count each pair of piercings, like if you count this as 2 piercings and not 1. There are a couple more questions about body mods, so that's all I'm gonna say for this one. The next question is, what are my most recent body mods? My high nostrils, these guys are my most recent piercing. Unless you count my septum being stretched, because my septum is at like 10 or 8 gauge-ish. I can fit 2 or 3 rings in there. I have 2 in right now. And then my most recent tattoo is a bat on my upper thigh that I will put in a picture of. I have not been pierced in like 2 years, and I haven't been tattooed in 6-ish months. And that is literally only because I don't have the money for it. The next question is, what was the first zine I made? The first zine I made was Flowers and Identity. You can get one for $1.50 if you want one. It's just a short little like prose and doodle 8-page zine about the way that flowers have been used to degrade queer people and the reclamation of flowers as a symbol of gay and queer power, and that's it. It's pretty simple, but I still like it. I still think it's cute. The next question is, what are your current hair dye plans and body mod plans? My hair is just a mess all the time. The like split blue and pink dye I did was really cute, but it would have been hell-ish to maintain, and it washed out really quickly, so I don't know if I'm gonna do it again, but I'm kind of considering doing like pink and blue split down the middle instead of like front to back. But I might just go purple again because I have purple dye and I'm not in the position to be buying hair dye right now. I'm just using what I have. I also have another box of black and I need to redo the black section of my hair because it's turning kind of reddish brown. As for body mods, I don't have any current like immediate plans because again, I don't have the money for it. But I really want to split my tongue. I think about it all the time. I want my tongue split so bad. I also want a vertical labret. I kind of want to get my other eyebrow pierced. I want half a dozen or so more ear piercings, and I want a VCH or an HCH. I'm undecided. Those are my current body mod plans. I also want to get my nipple tattooed in the shape of a heart. It's really hard to find tattoo artists near me that do any sort of restorative chest work, so I'm on the lookout for that. I love this question. What is my current gender hoard? I posted a video maybe like 3-ish years ago going through all of the words that I keep in my little notes app gender hoard. I haven't updated it in a while, but I should. But some words that I've been feeling recently are genderqueer. I really like genderqueer as a word. I wish it hadn't gone out of fashion because I think it's a really sick word. Still, the easiest, like most succinct way to describe my gender is just non-binary trans man, so I use that a lot. I also have been really into pansy, like as a gender itself, and also fag as a gender itself, because my gender is very tied to my sexuality in a very complex way that only transsexuals would understand. I also really like the word transsexual as of late. I think it's fun to throw around, especially when it makes cisgender people uncomfortable. Speaking of which, the next question is from one of my pals, and it just says, fagdykism? And I agree. I don't call myself a fagdyke, at least not super often. However, I very strongly believe that fagdykes are the backbone of the gay world. Genderfuckery is so powerful, and I love fagdykes and dyke fags and boy girls and everyone that does gender in a way that cisgender people just don't understand. That's my favorite gender. My favorite gender is when cisgender people can't comprehend your gender. Thoughts on the Dog Park Dissidents' new album? I'm glad someone asked me about this because I've kind of been wanting to talk about it, but I also haven't been wanting to talk about it because I'm like, I don't want to be mean. Okay, if you know me at all, you probably know that I like Dog Park Dissidents. They're one of my favorite contemporary queercore bands, and if you have not heard of them, absolutely go check them out. However, I think their most recent album is overproduced. I do. I'm sorry. And that is obviously like a personal opinion. I don't think it's bad by any means. Obviously the lyricism, wonderful. The music as a whole, great. I would still listen to their most recent album, but the versions of the songs that I prefer are the grungy, underproduced, badly produced, like, I don't know. They just have a special place in my heart. And I don't think the new album is bad. I think it's well done, obviously. However, it's just not for me. I prefer the grungier stuff. I just do, I'm sorry. I think a part of it is just that I've listened to their older music so many times over that the newer versions with like clearer vocals just don't appeal to me as much because they don't sound the same. They don't sound as garagey, they don't sound as DIY, I guess. And it's not because they're bad, they're not bad at all. They're just not, they're not for me in the way that the older stuff is. But if you prefer like more higher produced music, then maybe you would like their newer stuff, I don't know. The next question is, did you ever feel like being autistic impacts your gender identity, / do you have any thoughts or feelings about the term autogender? Yeah, I love the term autogender or autogender or however it's pronounced. I think it's wonderful and it's a great way to explain, or not necessarily explain, but a great way to like label and identify how your neurodivergence impacts your gender. I do identify with it a little bit, but I don't necessarily claim it as a label online because of the amount of vitriol towards autistic people and autistic trans people that exists on the internet. I'm sure you all are familiar with that, but I do very much feel like being autistic impacts my gender and the way I experience it and the way I experience the world and social structures in general. It confuses me when people have problems with labels because like if it doesn't apply to you, why do you care? Someone inventing a new word to describe the unique way that they interact with the world is not gonna hurt anyone. It's so harmless. I just don't understand the vitriol towards it because I think that finding vocabulary to describe the way that you interact with the world is a beautiful thing. I think it's a positive thing. I don't think it's something that could ever like harm the trans community. I don't know, assimilationism is a joke for real. The next question is, what do I think art will look like in a socialist communist society? I have so many thoughts on this. I don't necessarily think that art will look one particular way, you know, but I do think that art will become more everywhere. I think there will be more art in general, and that's something that I look forward to, that in a post-capitalist world, more people will make art. And I don't necessarily think that because like art will be funded by the state or whatever, but I just think that more people will be free to make art. I think that everyone has a little bit of an artist in them, you know? I just thoroughly believe that one of the like core human desires is to create. And I wish that we didn't squash that desire, you know, in service of capital or whatever. I don't know, I think there's a reason that so many anarchists make zines and so many anarchists are artists and so many anarchists do like graffiti and public installations. Sorry, this is the cheesiest shit, but I think there's something artistic as a whole about imagining a different world. You know, there's something imaginative that goes into being an abolitionist. There's something artistic about a world without capitalism, and I think that will translate. I hope that will translate. I think people deserve to make things and make them beautifully, and I don't know. That future may not happen within my lifetime, but that's not important. What's important is that I do what I can to work towards it. Here is the first finished zine. For comparison, this was my test print version. I like the color of the flower a little bit better, but as a whole, certainly this one looks a lot better, and it's on better paper, so. The next question is, did you end up continuing with the Keith Haring video? Yes and no. Let me talk about it. I mentioned in one video at one point wanting to make a video about the commodification of Keith Haring and the way that his art is consumed and the politics of it all, and I still do really want to make that video. However, two things happened. One, I watched a video on Keith Haring and his art, and it made a very similar point to the point that I wanted to make. Not the same point, not with all of the same political analysis, but a similar point. And I was like, damn, I need to either kind of reframe my video or I need to do something different, you know, not necessarily better or anything, but I want to make a video that is not a video that has already been created, you know? And then the other thing that happened was that I went to a really cool estate sale that was obviously a gay couple that had passed or moved to a retirement home or something. And I found there a old biography of Keith Haring from like right before his death. And I was like, shit, this is perfect. Like, I am gonna consume this and I'm gonna use it for my video. And then I got to the checkout and they were like, this one's $20 because it's an art book. And I was like, $20 is a book new price, not a book used price. Anyway, so I didn't get it and I felt so sad and I was so off-put by that happening that I have not worked on that video. I did get some other really cool books from that estate sale. I want to do a bookshelf tour so bad. My bookshelf is the first thing in my room that I like completed when I moved, and it is really cute and I really like it and I want to do a bookshelf tour, but I don't know if anyone would enjoy it, so please tell me if you would enjoy it so that I can tell you about the cool origin stories of my old gay books. So that was a long answer to say that yes, the video will hopefully still happen. I don't know when. What are your thoughts on how trans lingo is warped or misinterpreted, especially as it enters the mainstream, TM? I've noticed a lot of cis people have caught on to these terms and, while they likely have good intentions, will use them incorrectly in a way that projects their own biases. For example, saying someone is masc presenting even if they appear feminine but just can't pass, or when discussing periods using woman and AFAB interchangeably. It gives me the ick in a way that's hard to describe because technically they are using trans-approved terms. Love to hear what your thoughts are. Yeah, I have a very similar reaction to you. I think I don't know. A lot of the times it feels like it's on purpose, even when I know it's probably not. Language in terms of gender moves pretty fast, but that doesn't mean it's impossible for cis people to catch on. And those that do often catch on, but still don't seem to understand. I actually kind of like that they can never seem to get it right, because there are cis people that get it right and are like good allies, right? But the way that language around gender is complex does make it easy to get wrong, but I kind of enjoy that because then I know who the bad ones are. I also just kind of want to give you some affirmation. Like, it is more than okay for you to feel icky about cis people using language improperly. Can you talk about navigating college and also the world as a visibly queer person? Do you ever feel the need to tone it down in a certain context? How do you react to offhand comments? And where do you find confidence to present authentically? This is a lot of questions with a lot of answers. I think a part of it is that growing up, I did get a lot of shit for presenting who I was, not from like people that were important to me, but I was bullied a lot throughout middle and high school. I was harassed in bathrooms, so it's not outside my wheelhouse to be like stared at. And I think another part of it is honestly just my autistic audacity and lack of not care for other people, but lack of care for what other people think about me. A part of it too for me is that I can't just avoid looking the way that I do. I dress to make myself comfortable, not to make other people comfortable, and I feel like that's visible in the way that I present myself. The fits that I wear, like the makeup, the jewelry that I wear on YouTube is not what I wear daily necessarily. It is what I would wear to college classes. However, I felt relatively safe in a college environment. I knew that pretty much wherever I was, there was going to be likely at least one person that would stand up for me if I got hit. Not necessarily in the bathrooms, but, you know, I mostly use gender-neutral bathrooms anyway. To an extent, I can't control being gender non-conforming. I'm on testosterone, my voice is the way that it is, but I have long hair. You can't see my beard because I wear a mask in public, and I am also 5'4". Some of it is certainly also a privilege. People aren't as outwardly violent to trans men in the way that they are to trans women in public. That said, I am oftentimes mistaken for a trans woman. I feel like if you carry yourself with confidence, the likelihood of someone feeling like you are vulnerable is less. I don't think you should have to be confident to be able to express yourself in the way that you want to, but it certainly does help. And that was the last question that I am going to answer today. I cut and folded all my zines, and I managed to bind 5 of them, so that's epic. I will probably finish the rest of them later today, and if you ordered one, expect it soon. You will have it soon. Leave a comment on whatever you want. I talked about a whole lot of things in this video, so I'm sure you have already found something to reflect on. And goodbye, comrades. I hope that you all find a way to live out your anarchist life in a way that you like. And I will talk to you later, maybe.